Well, good morning and thank you everybody for dialing in today for our third version of this webinar. So this is take 3 for me, and I quite often sometimes feel in the middle of a webinar I may be repeating some of my hints and tips. I really am repeating myself because this is the third time we've done this, and rather than hit play and record and you know, just play the same recording, we are going live 3 times with the same information. So thank you for joining us. You will get a copy of today's PowerPoint and you will get a copy of the recording, so Tim will send them through. The good thing is, even though we started running our webinars yesterday afternoon, since then the department has sent through the department version of a PowerPoint, so we'll attach that as well. And they have also just released in like the last 20 minutes some other fact sheets. Tim's going to get them loaded onto our website, and when he emails out the information to you all, he will also email those fact sheets to you. So there's some really good hints and tips. I've had a quick look through them between our 7:30 webinar and this webinar, because they only just came through, and there's some really good info in there for you as well. So make sure you access them. So as I said, we'll all get sent to you, but please, if you can hang around for the webinar. The reason we're doing it 3 times live is so that you get the opportunity to ask some questions and answers at the end. All right. I'm going to just share my screen now. So for those of you who don't know me, this is me, Trudi Bartlett. I'm Director of Regional Development for the RDA here in the Darling Downs Southwest, and I'll give you a little overview of what we do in our RDA before we get stuck into the BBRF hints and tips. Okay, so I'm just going to go from share screen now. And hopefully you guys will be able to see a one screen that is the beginning of our PowerPoint presentation. Tim, this is our 3rd time doing this, so you're just going to let me know if I don't have the right screen up, and I'm going to assume that I've got the right one, since we haven't had any problems so far.
Yeah, that works for me.
Good, thanks, Tim. And everyone, that's Tim, our admin assistant. He likes to work in the background. You get the occasional little voice. He's not a man of many words. There can't be too many of us that speak as much as me. And so he'll just chime in every now and again, usually when I'm doing something wrong. So thank you, Tim, for getting up ridiculously early this morning to help with webinar number 2. And this is number 3 for us. So I'm taking him and Lauren, who is our project officer, out for a Christmas lunch after we get this webinar out the road. So that's going to be our celebration today. All right, so as I said, we are going to do question and answers at the end. There's a chat function at the bottom of your screen. You can hit the little chat bar, and at any stage you can be putting in comments and questions and stuff. Tim will be keeping an eye on those, and I'll have a look at them at the end. It's a bit hard to keep an eye on them during the presentation. So Tim will do that and pull me up if it's something urgent I need to be saying. But I see we've had a few people say hi already that we know in that chat function, so I know it's working. With the Q&A, my advice would be, if you've got something that's project specific about your particular project, please feel free to contact us directly, and you're going to get all of our details multiple times during this webinar. So please contact us directly to talk about something that's project specific. And we're trying to leave the Q&A session to things that are probably applicable to many projects, or something that you want to ask around the guidelines that's fairly general, okay? So, but if you need something talked about that's project specific, I would suggest you get in touch with us directly. All right, so as I said, I'm Trudi Bartlett, Director of Regional Development Australia here at Darling Downs Southwest. And today's webinar, we're going to go through the guidelines. We're going to have a look at best practice and give you some hints and tips around what we think makes up a good grant from our experience. And then we'll have the Q&A at the end, okay? Now, I just want to put this disclaimer out there that this is a highly oversubscribed, extremely competitive grant round. The Building Better Regions Fund is the biggest infrastructure grant that opens all year. We know of projects that wait all year until they can get in on this one, and it is a very, very competitive space. So there are no guarantees to you getting this grant. Even if you follow every tip we give you and all the advice and all the stuff that the department has sent out, there is no guarantee, just because it is competitive. And it does come down, you know, to actually having to compare grant applications before they can make a decision, okay? But what we're doing today is saying, look, here's the tools and the information and the tips that we believe is going to give you the best possible chance, because we want you to get in there with the best possible chance. I'm also just letting you know that the RDA network themselves, we actually don't get to say which projects do or don't get funded. However, it is seen as a very good thing if you have a RDA letter of support attached to your grant, but I'm just letting you know it's not like they come across my desk and I get the final say, or our committee get the final say on who does and doesn't get funded. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. So that's our disclaimer. All right. So who are we? RDA. I'm just going to run through this really quickly before we get into the BBRF stuff for those that aren't aware of us. For those that are, sorry for the repeat, but we are Regional Development Darling Down Southwest. So we just have this small little footprint of 23% of Queensland. So we have 10 local governments we work with. We have 7 state members across that footprint, and we have 2 federal members. So I see the lovely Robin from Eromanga Natural History Museum right over here is on the call today. And today, Robin, I'm sitting in Toowoomba, which is rare, but I am sitting in Toowoomba. So it's usually about a 9.5 hour, 10.5 hour drive, depending how long my right leg is, for me to go out and visit these 2 shires here. So we do a lot of kilometres. I think that picture's kind of indicative of my office, because most of the time it is a car. But we're funded to have like a helicopter view of that region and to know what's going on with both federal, state government, as well as our local councils, business and industry and community. So it's a pretty big footprint, and what we do is connect people up and make sure that projects progress, okay? So all of the RDAs, so there's 52 RDAs across Australia. They're partly funded by the Department of Infrastructure, which is the same department that rolls out the Building Better Regions Fund. And we all, under our Department of Infrastructure funding, have to align our activities with this charter that you see on the screen. Each RDA, though, is actually set up as its own independent entity, and we're run by a board of leaders from across our region who all volunteer their time. So I'm very lucky I have a great board of volunteers who dedicate their time to developing this region and help us with our strategic direction as to and what we're delivering across the region. So you will find differences between the RDAs, and the reason I bring that up is I'm cognizant that we have people on the call today that aren't from Darling Down Southwest. Obviously, we want to see a big chunk of the Building Better Regions Fund grant go to Darling Down Southwest, but I do acknowledge that we have others on the call that actually aren't from our region at all. So I would say to you, get in touch with your local RDA, and we more than happily have allowed you on the call today to give you, to also make the most of these hints and tips. So, but certainly get in touch with your local RDA, but you will find differences between the local RDAs because they're all partly funded by the Department of Infrastructure. They can get funds and deliver things outside of that charter. So you will find that they will do different things, but we do all fall under this one charter. Our committee of volunteers have prioritised these 3 overarching priorities, and one is to get more grants to the region. We figure if we can get better quality grants going in and we can win more of them across Darling Down Southwest, then that straight away has an economic stimulus for our region because you've won that grant and usually you spend that money locally. So that's going to help our region, as well as the legacy of whatever it is that you've just created. with a new project or a piece of infrastructure, there's benefits to that. So we want to get more grants across our region won by our area. Okay, our second, and these aren't in any order, our other overarching priority is to progress more projects. So some people say, oh, by getting people better grants, aren't you progressing the project? Yes and no, because quite often a project's not progressing because the right people aren't working together, and we help coordinate that. We link people up and we collaborate. Quite often we'll be the independent body that brings the 3 levels of government and community and industry together, so that stuff can progress, because we've got no skin in the game. So you will find that we help coordinate things so that we can progress projects. And our other part of our overarching and priority is to be that intel on the ground to feed back to the federal government. So I just thought I'd let you know that that's never been stronger than recently with COVID. So during COVID, we were on 3 teleconferences a week with our minister. Our minister is Nola Marino. She is the assistant minister that sits under Michael McCormack. So regional development is part of his portfolio, but his portfolio is so big that they actually have Nola assigned to the RDA network. And she is a gem. She's an absolute pocket rocket, and she really does make the most of the intel across the RDA network and does feed it back to different departments within the federal government. And we've seen that with what has come out of some of the policy changes and decisions that were made during COVID, and certainly we've seen stuff that's been mentioned on those teleconferences, and now we've seen them come out in the budget announcements. So if you've got something that you believe the federal government should know about, please use your RDA network, because we can feed back into our minister that way. So I thought that was good for you guys to know that that's something that we do. Our RDA with our 10 councils, so our 10 councils co-fund, and we co-fund what we call Economy ID, or ID profile is what it gets referred to. We're going to spend some time on this today, and I'm going to take you on a bit of a live tour, all going well with technology. But it's a tool that you can use for data and evidence to help with your grant applications. Okay, so we're a big believer on you can't put in a grant application that says we think and we feel this is a pretty project. If you want to be competitive, you need numbers, numbers, numbers. Like data and evidence should be throughout your grant application. So we're going to show you that tool today. Not all council areas and all RDAs have it. So our 10 councils and our RDA area, we have got it. We pay a lot of money for it. We want you to use it. But not everybody has got it. So those that are on the call and outside our region, you'll need to double check with your local council or with your local RDA whether or not you have it. I know I've got a fair few from our neighbouring council and our neighbouring RDA, Wide Bay Burnett. Scott Rowe, one of my all-time favourite RDA directors. He does a similar role to me over in the Wide Bay Burnett. You guys have definitely got this as well. So I'm just letting you know that because I know there's quite a few of you on the call. So use this tool to help support your case. Okay, we're going to go through it later anyway. The other thing I wanted to let you know is, I said we're partly funded by the Department of Infrastructure, and each RDA is different. We can apply for other funds and can deliver other things. We are one of the 6 regional job committees. So we got funding from the state government under the Department of Employment, Small Business and Training to facilitate the Toowoomba Regional Jobs Committee. And with that, one of the activities the Jobs Committee has done is we did do a virtual jobs fair in November. And I just want to let you know we're going to be doing another one in March. We did open that beyond the Toowoomba Regional Council borders. So we had some of our other councils have a stall site at the virtual fair. So Mayor O'Toole, I see that you're on the call today. Ballon had a site, and we had a few of our other councils have a site there. I'm just letting you know, because of the momentum and the results we got out of that, we are going to do another one in March 2021. We've got lots of other things we're going to do in 2021, but I just thought I would give you a heads up about that one. All right, let's get down to Building Better Regions Fund, because that's what you are here for. So a quick summary of the current BBRF is that there is $200 million announced in the budget. So even though Building Better Regions Fund is always in the forward estimates, we can never say it's going to happen until it actually goes through a proper budget process, which, as you know, was delayed thanks to COVID. So because the budget was delayed thanks to COVID, the delivery of BBRF and rollout of it has been delayed as well. So normally it would open in about late September, early October, and it normally closes, say, late November, early December. So we would normally be done and dusted by now. The department would be assessing the applicants by now. So we have had a delay because of COVID. The good thing is the department have released the guidelines early, even though the portal to apply doesn't open till next year. Now, we've been saying to any of our project proponents that have been coming to us, the department let us know that the guidelines weren't going to change significantly from the previous 4 rounds. So we've been saying to them, start getting grant ready based on previous rounds. So even though the guidelines have just been released, if you're a good person that's been prepared, you would have been looking at the old guidelines and going off them, and you're pretty safe. You know, there hasn't been a lot of change, which is great. But the current guidelines have been released, and I know Tim has sent you all email links to that with this webinar, and we'll send them out again afterwards. So 200 million. The only difference this time is they've said, look, we're going to set aside 100 million of that 200 million bucket to be for specific tourism related infrastructure projects. Now, if you want to put in for that tourism bucket, that 100 million, you need to prove that your region was actually affected by COVID and the tourism industry in your region was affected by COVID. And you also need to prove that your project is actually going to mitigate that. So it's going to benefit the tourism industry in your region. So just keep that in mind. Otherwise, there is still the 100 million for the general infrastructure projects that we would normally put forward in every round of Building Better Regions Fund. So you can still put in under the general piece infrastructure. It's the same application, whether it's tourism infrastructure or normal infrastructure, general infrastructure. You use the same application, you use the same guidelines. The only difference is you need to prove the tourism extra evidence. So there's those two. And then there's the community investment program, which I'll talk about a little bit further. We had a good question on our first webinar from a group, and it was around the fact that they were a community group, but they were wanting to upgrade a sporting facility. He said, so do we put in under community investments because we're a community group? No, the community investment is about the project. If your project is an infrastructure project, but you happen to be a community group, you put in under the under that infrastructure stream because it's about the project. Okay, and then I'll talk to you about what sorts of projects go under community streams. Okay, so if it's a bricks and mortar type thing, it would go under infrastructure. Okay, so just clarifying that for you. What sort of dollars can you apply for? Well, under the infrastructure stream, which includes the tourism, you can apply for minimum of 20,000 and up to 10 million. Okay, now keep in mind that you need between 50 and 25% of matching funds. So generally speaking, you need 50% of matching funds. We've got some of our councils that are classed as very remote, which I'll show you in a second, and you guys only need to find 25%. You can actually ask for up to 75% of the matching funds, but generally speaking, everyone else, you have to find 50-50. You need to have those funds, okay? With the community stream, the community investment stream, you can apply for 5,000 to $1 million. So anything in there, and again, keep in mind, you need the matching funds, and I'm going to explain matching funds a bit more. The other bit that's important is the application period. So the portal to actually start submitting grants will open on the 12th of January. That's when the portal opens. That's not when you should be starting to prepare. So good on you for investing a good hour and a half having to listen to me today, because that's part of your preparation, okay? So start preparing now. The smart ones have already started preparing. If you haven't yet, that's fine. You're in the smart bracket because you're going to start right now. Do not leave it till the 12th of January. That's just when the portal happens to open, okay? The other thing is it closes very strictly on at 5 p.m. New South Wales time on the 5th of March. Please note that that's 4 o'clock our time. Now, you should not be leaving it till the 5th of March to be applying. There's always issues if you leave it till the last day, but certainly do not leave it into that last hour. So we have had in the past applicants who put in their application between 4 and 5 o'clock because they forgot about Queensland time, and they tried to put in a good argument afterwards to say this is why our application should still be considered. You will not be considered. Do not do this. Like, just keep in mind, it is Queensland time. Better still, don't leave it till the 5th of March, everyone. Now, who is eligible to actually go in for this? This is a not-for-profit grant. Okay, it's for not-for-profit, community-based organisations, for local governments, and for what they call non-distributing cooperatives. Okay, so it's not for the private sector, and it's not for for-profit businesses. There is an exception to that, which is if you have partnered with a not-for-profit organisation. So my local example of that is John D, which is a for-profit business, actually partnered with Southern Downs Regional Council, and Southern Downs Regional Council were clearly the applicant on that application. So it was done, I'm pretty sure I've got that right, that it was round 1 of BBRF quite some time ago, but it's one of the few examples of where a private-public partnership happened, and they were successful at getting that grant up. So generally speaking, if you are for profit, this is not the grant for you guys. You know, unless you've already established some fairly strong relationships with a not-for-profit group or with your local council as to them being the lead on the application. Okay, now for those of you who are on the call and you just realised you're for profit and you're probably not going to get a piece of this pie, there are other pies you can go look at. Okay, so on our website, Tim every month updates the funding tab, and on the funding tab we list all of the grants we can find, which are both for-profit and the grants not-for-profit. So there's a section that says business. You scroll down, you'll see the business section, and the business stuff that's on that portal there, on the RDA website, will tell you the grants that are actually for-profit businesses. The other document that I wanted to just tell you about is the innovation document. So this one here is grants and programs for profit. So if you come on this call, realise BBRF isn't for you, go look at this document. This is the one that's for profits. So it's the state government and the federal government work together to put this document together. And along the top here are all of the grants that are available for from the state, grants and programs for businesses. And along the bottom here is the ones that are available from the federal government. So this is a really great document for the for-profit businesses, and it's on our website under that funding tab as well. Okay, so there on the back page of that document, this is the summary, and it tells you the links and the phone numbers you can ring to find out about those programs that are available. Okay, so for the for-profit businesses, that's where you want to go look. For everybody else, stay on the call and we're going to keep telling you about the Building Better Regions Fund. Okay, so there are 2 streams, as I said. One of them is the infrastructure stream. And in the infrastructure stream, you must provide economic and social benefit. Actually, in both streams, you have to provide economic and social benefit, and we're going to go into that a little bit later. This is where you can cover new pieces of infrastructure or the upgrade or extension of existing infrastructure. So this is the bricks and mortar stream. This is the building, the construction, that sort of stream, okay? For most projects, you need to find matching funds of 50%, and we've got a couple of our council areas that only need to find 25%, so they can actually ask for up to 75% of matching funds. But you need to be able to prove that you've got those funds. So you need to either prove that they're in your bank account, in your association's bank account, or if you've got somebody who's very giving that has said, yep, if you get this project, we'll provide you with the funds, there is documentation you need to fill in from that organisation that says that they, in writing, are saying they will match funds. So your co-funding has to be confirmed, okay? This is not a grant that you apply for with the wish that you're going to find the money in the meantime, okay? The community infrastructure streams, there's 3 main things under community infrastructure that you can apply for. 1 is new or expanded local events. 2 is strategic regional plans. And 3 is leadership building stuff. So leadership capability building projects. Okay, so as you can see, the infrastructure stream is the bricks and mortar and construction, and the community stream is stuff that you're going to deliver in the community. It doesn't mean you have to be a community group. It just means the project is a community project. You can be a community group building a piece of infrastructure. Okay. So I just thought I'd make that clear. But even in this stream, you need to prove that there is an economic benefit and that there is a social benefit. And we're going to go through it. The matching funds is the same. So you need to go find 50% for some of my councils. You have to go find 25% for some of the other councils, and I'll show you which are which. In this stream though, if you want to apply for under 20,000, so remember the minimum's 5. So if you've got a project that you're going to deliver and you want to apply for somewhere between 5,000 and 20,000, so if it's under 20,000, you actually don't need the matching funds. So that's a good opportunity for some of our smaller community groups who might want to do, you know, a new event, or they might want to do an audit or a strategic plan, or they've got some leadership workshops or training they want to deliver in their region under 20,000. That means that you don't have to go find the matching funds. So for some of our community groups on the call, just keep that one in mind if you're a bit worried about the matching funds. If you go just a smaller project and a smaller delivery that's still going to have those economic and social benefits, you don't have to go find the matching funds. Okay. Remember, it is a competitive round though, so always showing that you've got matching funds is a good thing. All right, so because the community infrastructure stream has those 3 elements, I just thought I would give you a copy straight out of the guidelines as to what do they class as a local event. Now remember, the local events have to be new, or it needs to be quite a substantial expansion on a local event, okay? So that you've got listed there, what are they classed, you know, some examples of what an event would look like that they might fund. And just keep in mind too that it is actually specified in the guidelines that if you have already successfully applied under Building Better Regions Fund in previous rounds for that event, even if that event is being substantially expanded, you can't apply again. You don't get to go in twice, sorry guys, on the event thing. All right. Strategic planning, or may I say your community group could apply again, it just couldn't be for that same event, okay? The strategic planning are things like skills audits, strategic plans. It might be going and collecting some data or information or research across your region to help you know, deliver a project. So that's comes under the strategic plan. So things like Chambers of Commerce doing a strategic plan under the sorts of things that we see come through under here. The third area that you can put under the community infrastructure stream is building regional leadership capability. Okay, so there might be programs or courses, workshops and things that's going to help build the capability and capacity of leaders in your region. All right. So because there is this 100 million out of the 200 million dedicated to tourism infrastructure, we just wanted to touch on this to show that if you are going to say, look, I want to be in the 100 million bucket, considered in that tourism infrastructure bucket, you need to prove that your region was hit, your region's tourism industry was hit by COVID, and you need to prove that that project is actually going to mitigate that effects, that the benefits from the project are actually for the tourism industry. So you've got to put separate evidence in around that if you want to be considered for the tourism infrastructure bucket. Remember, there is the general infrastructure bucket as well, so you can just say, look, I'm just going to go into the general infrastructure bucket because I haven't got enough evidence to prove that extra requirement. So there is that extra requirement under the tourism related infrastructure. And you don't have to be a tourism organisation. You still have to be a not-for-profit organisation, but you could be a progress association or a chamber of commerce that happens to want to do a tourism piece of infrastructure. Now, an example of that, we helped the Cunnamulla Progress Association change their unused railway station and add a cinema to it. So it would be a tourism attraction. The Progress Association realised that they needed something to make tourists stay overnight because, you know, they wanted more overnight stays because there's a massive economic impact of having more overnight stays, et cetera, et cetera. So they applied as a Progress Association. So they're not a tourism organisation, but they were actually building a piece of tourism infrastructure. So that was a successful application in previous rounds by the Cunnamulla Progress Association. So it would be a good example of somebody who's doing tourism infrastructure, but they're not necessarily a tourism organisation. They're a progress association, a very good one, and they're doing an awesome job. So I said to you that I would show you this tool that you can use to find out whether or not you need 50% of the matching funds or whether or not you can actually ask for 75 and only find 25% yourself. So I'm just going to change screens now and see if I can share this other screen. All right, Tim, unless I hear from you, I'm going to assume you can all see a map of Australia. So this is in the guidelines. You can click on this in the guidelines and it sends you direct to this link. We have copied it into our PowerPoint so that when you get the PowerPoint, you can go have a look at it. But pretty much all of Australia is mapped out, and you can click on any of the council areas and it tells you over here on the left that if you're considered remote or very remote, that you only need to find 25% of the matching funds. You can ask for up to 75% of the matching eligible project costs. So just remember that the project might cost more because there might be components to the project that are ineligible as a project cost. You can claim up to, well, ask for grant funding for 75% of the eligible project costs. Okay, so you can have a look here. Across our Darling Downs Southwest, we have 6 council areas that are classed as very remote. So you guys all get to ask up to 75%. So they are Baloo, Balon, Paru, Merway, Maranoa and Quilpie. So you 6 guys don't have to find the whole 50% of matching funds. You can ask up to 75. And even though that's council areas, we're not talking just councils. If your project is being delivered in one of those 6 council areas, then that applies to your project. So it's about the project delivery area. And they just define it around local council boundaries. So the local councils in those areas and any projects that are being delivered in those areas can actually apply for up to 75. So Western Downs, Southern Downs, Toowoomba and Gundy, I'm really sorry guys, but you do have to find 50% of the matching funds. Now, there is an exemption to that. And I'm just warning you that this is a competitive grant round, and even they put in the guidelines that it is rare that they will give you an exemption for no matching funds or not meeting the matching funds criteria. You can use things like drought, COVID, something else like might be bushfires or something that has heavily affected your area and has affected your financial situation as to why you would put in the exemption. Now you need to provide a whole heap of extra evidence around that to be justified for that. And you know, it's in there. You guys are welcome to try for that. I will flag with you again, it is a highly competitive round and it's a rarity that they accept those exemptions. So if you can find matching funds, I would recommend it. But if you think you've got a good case to say why you can't, then you can do that, okay? So that's enough about matching funds. Let's talk about criteria. What are they actually going to judge this application on? So basically our understanding is that most what happens is they check the eligibility of the assessments that come in. So they get all these grants, and first of all, they check whether or not you should even be in the round. Are you eligible? Are you a not-for-profit or a local council? Are you in one of the areas that is allowed to apply? Because cities, CBDs can't apply. So they check all of that. And then you go to this next round where they go, all right, we're going to assess you on these 4 criteria, and you need to score at least 60% and above to then even go beyond that bit. Now, if you do your math, you can straight away work out that if you don't do economic benefit and you don't prove social benefit, you are not in the, you're not going to score 60%. They're 30 of the points of a whole total 40 points. Okay, so you can see economic benefits worth 15, social benefits worth 15, and then have you got the capability and capacity to deliver it is only worth 5, and how badly do you need the funds is only worth 5. Okay, so economic impact and social impact, really crucial that you prove that with numbers in your application to be, you know, competitive in amongst and up against others. Okay, so they're the assessment criteria. How can we help you, RDA? So we usually meet with project proponents sometime throughout the year, and we give you some advice on how that could be a good project, or we talk to you about who you should be collaborating with, how to overcome some barriers. We try and shortcut who you need to talk to in state government departments or federal government departments, so you're not dealing with 1-300 numbers and going down wrong avenues. So we're kind of the connector and the collaborator. So if you haven't met with us, you've probably left it a little bit late now. Still let us know if you've got a project you want to run past us. But that's the sort of stuff we usually do throughout the year. And then when it comes to crunch time, like right now, you know, in with BBRF, what we help you with is data. And I'm going to show you some of that data, how you can access it yourself, but also the economic impact assessment report that we can do for you to help you get your grants up, and you can attach that to your grant application. The other thing that we help you with is letters of support. So we can always help you with a letter of support, unless for some reason it's a really bad project that shouldn't be put forward. And we haven't had many of them that we've ever said no to. So, you know, so pretty much that's a, you know, use your local RDA for that support, and that's the offer from Darling Downs Southwest. For those of you who can't stay for the whole webinar, as I said, you get the whole recording, but we wanted to give you our contact details fairly early in today's webinar, and they are repeated again at the end so that you had them just in case there's an issue or it drops out. So I just wanted to say here are our contact details. Here are some quick links. So the funding tab I already referred to. Once a month, Tim updates that on our website, and it has all the grants we can find. It sits there 24/7, so don't wait for Tim's update, but he will send out a newsletter and let you know when he has updated them. For you to make sure you're on that newsletter, on this tab here, which is our homepage, you scroll right down to the bottom and there's a subscription detail. Put your name, phone number, you know, email in, things like name and email, and Tim will make sure that you get those updates and you'll hear about our webinars and everything else. This is the economic profile link, and we're going to go through that in depth today. But it's there just in case you need a quick link. It's also on our website. So if you ever lose it, you can find it. All right. Okay, our tips on the Building Better Regions Fund. For those of you who can still see me on video, this is now my Bible. I print these things and walk around with them, and you have to know these guidelines inside out, back to front. So for those of you who are looking at applying, read those guidelines, highlight it, you know, make yourself some notes, do your grant application before you hit submit, go back and reread them and make sure you have ticked the boxes. Anything that uses the words must or mandatory, they mean mandatory. If you have not got it, you're in the no pile. So make sure you actually are very aware of the guidelines and what you need to attach and what you need to be putting into your grant application, okay? This slide here we borrowed from our lovely counterpart, which is RDA Tasmania. So they did some work around what are the key principles of a successful project, and we agreed with them. So this isn't so much about the grants, this is more so around your project. And they had some really good things around what makes a good project. So one is that you can actually measure improvements. You actually are going to end up with some outcomes that have numbers attached with them so that it is actually measurable. The other one is that your project is really well defined, and it's very clear. So there are documents you can attach to your grant application that show that your project is well defined and has been well prepared. So you'd have a project plan, you'd have some risk management, you'd have a good budget, you'd have quotes. Those sorts of things show that this is a well thought out, well planned project, okay? The other one is it usually shows meaningful support, so that you've got support of our 3 levels of government, or Chamber of Commerce, or the community have shown support, so that a good project always shows that it is well supported. It's not something that you've come up with at your kitchen bench and have decided you want to apply for this grant. It's obvious that there is a groundswell of need and demand, but there's also a groundswell of support that this project is something that will fulfill that need. The other one is value for money. So we're all taxpayers. We all want to see that our tax dollar gets spent well, and value for money in your project is always a key element. So make sure you do summarise up the in-kind support that your project has got, even though you can't use that for matching funds. Please still put it in there, because it shows that you're leveraging the federal government dollar to get more out of that dollar. So really make sure that you show your value for money. And the other thing is that it needs to be shovel ready. This is not a grant round for things that, you know, you want to do feasibility or a business case or viability things. That needs to already be done. You know, these grants are for stuff that is ready to go. You can't have started the project though, especially the infrastructure stream, you cannot have started the project, but this project is for things that are definitely ready to be shovel ready. And the other thing, good element to a good strategic project is that it has alignment with the government's outcomes. So if you can show that your project is aligned with the federal government outcomes, and desired outcomes, given that it's a federal government around, that's a good thing, but also showing that you've got alignment to the state priorities and your local council priorities is a good tip as well. Okay, so a couple of other little things that you can take into account is you need to show that there is a community need for the project, and that there is community partnerships and support for it. Also understanding your outputs and outcomes and making sure that you express them in your project. So for example, an output is that it's going to be a multi-purpose facility, okay? But the outcomes are employment for tourism and hospitality, or that it's going to enhance community participation and social inclusion, things like that as an outcome. And you need to say both. Here's the output and here's the outcome. Okay, do your research. You know, all of the winners of the last 4 rounds of BBRF in both the community stream and the infrastructure stream are available on the website. You know, so get on there and have a look at what sort of things have been funded in the past. Okay. So a few things you need to check first. One is, are you eligible? Like, are you a not-for-profit? Are you a local council? Have you actually got the matching funds, or has somebody guaranteed and put in writing that they are going to match the funds if you get the grant? Be very aware of the closing date. So as we said, that's the 5th of March, 4 o'clock Queensland time. But the actual grant period is to December 2023. So what that means is anything that gets funded needs to get finished and acquitted by December 2023. Okay, so that's the project delivery timeframe. Be really clear on what can and can't be funded. So in the infrastructure stream, there is what is able to be funded as far as the eligible project costs. So Appendix A has all the eligible project costs that will be funded. Appendix B has all the things that will not be funded. Now, there might be something in Appendix B that is crucial to your project. It's a component that you have to have. It just means the funding's not going to go towards it, and you can't count it in that. It still might be a project cost that you're going to have to wear, but you can't count it in the matching funds you will ask for. Okay, so just be clear about it. Have a good, clear understanding of the assessment criteria, and we're going to go over it again. And also the mandatory documents. So I've got a list of the mandatory documents, but read the guidelines, they're in there as well, and make sure that you have done all those. The department this morning only just released some extra fact sheets that we're going to send out for you. One of them is this, are you ready to apply? And I think it's a really good checklist that you can go through, because you might be thinking this grant is for you, but when you go through this, you can work out that, oh, actually, maybe I'm not ready this year. We still got to do some feasibility or viability. This is something I should be applying for next year. At least a webinar like this is going to help you get grant ready. You're going to know which ducks to get in a row between now and next year, but it's quite a good document. And Tim's going to load them onto our website, and we will be sending them out with this webinar. So you guys will get that later today. Could be Monday, Tuesday. Sometimes the recording takes a bit to load. Probably Monday, Tuesday, Tim. Is that more reasonable? I'm going to take that as a yes. All right.
That is a yes.
So it'll be Monday, Tuesday. You guys will get all of this. So some additional stuff that's coming out from the department. All right, so we wanted to go into the criteria a little bit more in depth. And as we said, the two key criteria are economic benefit, social benefit. You have got to prove this, and you've got to prove it with numbers. Okay, so you can see down the bottom there, there's some lists of things that you would be able to put values on. Definitely the increase in numbers, the value of the jobs, number of new businesses, you know, and we're going to show you a tool to prove some of that. But you want to make sure that you can show the economic flow-on effect to your community if you get this grant and this project goes ahead. The other one is the social benefits. So the social benefits, these two, you want to try and be finding numbers to prove the social demand, the community demand, and you want to be showing the actual effects of this project on your community. Okay, so what's the community social benefits of it? Okay, so really make sure that you have a look at that. Now, see this one here, increasing community volunteering. It's a nice, easy example. I'm going to show you on ID Profile where you can find what percentage of your region actually volunteer. So you can say, rather than, you know, we think it'll be nice to run some leadership workshops for our volunteers, you can actually say, look, 23% of our region volunteer. That's higher than the Queensland average, which is only 19%. Because of that, our community relies so much on our volunteers, and to avoid volunteer burnout, we would like to hold these workshops. So you can still put numbers in there, even when it comes to the social benefit. And we're going to show you some places to go find that soon. All right. The other two, which are only worth 5 points, is you do actually need to show that you have got the capacity to deliver. The federal government don't want to give money to somebody who then might fall over and can't deliver it. So your track record of similar projects or similar things that you've delivered, the readiness of the project. So those other things, like I mentioned before, like a good project plan and a risk management and a good budget, would show that you've got the capability and capacity to lead these things because you've done some really sound planning. So just keep in mind, if you're only at concept stage, this is probably not the timing for you. It doesn't mean it's not the grant for you. It's probably just not the timing for you. Your project really does need to be past planning and concept stage. Okay, it needs to be good to go. Okay. The other one that's worth 5 points is you need to show that you need this money for this project to go ahead. Okay, that the federal government dollars that would be put towards it are essential for this project to go ahead and for the benefits that are then going to flow onto your economy and to your community. So that's worth 5 points as well. So you will need to address that. All right. We're going to go through, most of what I've showed you so far is all in the guidelines. It's all there. You can go get that in the guidelines. It's just, you know, I've summarised it up. Here now we're going to share with you just some grant writing tips, and this is more from our experience. You know, I've been on grant assessment boards, written grants in the past. We've seen what's good, what's not good. I haven't always practiced what I've preached in the past. So I'm sharing the best possible tips I can with you here around grant writing, okay? So we said it before, read the guidelines and then reread them and then read them again, then write your grant and then go back to the guidelines and check you are actually ticking the boxes they are asking you to tick and you've attached the stuff they're asking you to attach, okay? Be really clear about why you require this funding. Like, what is the demand? What's the issue? What's the challenge that this project is going to solve? And then what's the impact? Okay, so be clear in that and demonstrate the support for it. On the links that Tim has sent you, you can print a sample application form. And you'll see from that sample application form that most of the fields are character limited. All right, so you have to be really succinct. But at the same time, you've got to be succinct and not assume that the assessment panel knows who you are, or they know your region, or they know your acronyms, because they don't. Okay, so you need to make sure that to a fresh, new set of eyes, they understand why there's a need for the project, what the actual project is, and how that project is going to benefit the economy and the community, okay? So my tip is get a Word document, type up the answers to each of the fields in your Word document and check your characters, okay? And then do your editing in there to make sure that you keep under that character limit. As we said, don't leave it till last minute, definitely submit early. You need to also show the financial support. So either you've got the finances or you've got in writing a co-funder. Still put in there that you can show in-kind support. So even though it does not count for your matching funds, we want you to show your in-kind support because it shows good value. It shows return on investment for the federal government dollar. So make sure you get them in there. Asking for those support letters, asking for letters of support, getting your accountant to fill in the template that you need for the accountant. Don't leave all that stuff to the last week because they are mandatory documents. Get onto them really early, okay? And start asking for your letters of support early and feel free to follow up. People are just busy, that's all. So allow yourself the follow-up time for those letters of support. Also allow time to revise your application. Now, the best person who can revise your application is a total fresh set of eyes. So you might be the president of your tennis club and you're writing this grant and you could get the secretary or the treasurer of the tennis club to revise it. Better still will be somebody who is totally unattached to your tennis club. And if they can read it and they get the need, the project and the impact, by reading it from a fresh set of eyes, you've done your best possible work that you could do, okay? So my tip would be get a fresh set of eyes to look over it that's not even aware of you or your project at all if you can, okay? And use data and evidence. We're going to show you some access to data and evidence in a minute, okay? So some specific, they're general grant writing tips that I just gave you. Some specific BBRF tips is you need to prove that you're actually addressing one of the outcomes. So it says in the beginning of both the guidelines, why is the government giving out this money? And they're saying, these are the intended outcomes. That's straight out of the guidelines. Make sure your project is actually going to get them one of their intended outcomes, okay? So they're in the grant guidelines. Make sure you can tick that box. And then how they will consider your application. First of all, those 4 criteria are crucial. They will end up coming down to having a look at how you compare against other grant applications in the round because it is competitive. They will look at the value for money and they will look at past performance of project delivery. So there's some key things that they take into consideration when assessing the grants. All right, data and evidence. I did also borrow this from my good friend Craig Perkins from RDA Tasmania. And you can see up the top there is a good way of saying, about the project and how it's strategically located and has local support and endorsement. Now, pretty much anyone could copy that black sentence at the top there because it's so generic, it's so general, you know, how do I know what you're saying is actually real? And then you can see the green one is a more specific example. It's a pretend example, but it's more specific, that it actually says, here's what it is, here's where it's being delivered, here's the actual organizations who support it, here's the data to show our region to you and why we would need it. So that's the green is a much better way of, and that's what your grant should look like. It should be scattered with numbers and actual specific organisations, not this general bit at the top. And if you read that general bit at the top, that sounds quite good, but any of you on the call could say that. So what makes you different? Why should we fund you? So that's what you want to answer. So you want your grant to look more like the green, okay? Where to find data? So you've got links here in your PowerPoint presentation, but I'm going to take you live onto some of them right now to show you the ID profile portal that we use to enable you guys to get data. So hopefully this will work. All right. Unless Tim tells me otherwise, I'm going to assume I'm on the red tab of the ID profile. So this tool is publicly available. What I'm about to show you is publicly available. You can get on there now and go find it. So ID profile is a data scraping portal that we pay for in conjunction with our 10 councils. So we co-fund it with them. And that means that this data is available for the broader RDA region. It saves me adding up 10 councils. And it's available for each of our 10 councils individually. We have also funded a portal for the 6 Western ones, so the Southwest group. So what this portal does is there's 2 tabs. One is the community profile, one's the economic profile. So for those of you who are outside the region, you're going to have to go have a look whether or not your council has funded this or your local RDA has funded this. So as I said, my neighbouring RDA, Scotty Rowe from over Wide Bay Burnett, their RDA do have it, and we've certainly got it for ours. So I'm just going to run you through the community profile first. So this is all the demographic type data. And so when you look at, you need to answer economic impact and social impact, it's in here where you can usually find some data to help prove the social need, the social demand, the social impact for your region. So in this community profile, there's a whole heap of data. You just got to go in there and play with it, guys. You can't break this, okay? I keep saying that like I'm testing your ID, the ID guys. Just go in there and have a look and you can find a whole heap of data. Now, most of what's in here is 2016 because the community profile data relies a lot on the census. When you go to the economic profile data, you'll see that they scrape from lots of different data sets, but the community profile has a couple in there that aren't the census, but most of this data is the census. Now, we're on the tail end of a census period, which kind of sucks, but this is the best data that you've got available to you, and the federal government know that. Still use it. And then you can always add to it any anecdotal or on the ground evidence as well. So my example that I use for that is the Toowoomba Regional Council area. We got inundated with migrants in 2018, 2019, and you know, it slowed up with the borders closing in 2020. But we got a lot of migrants that moved to our region since the last census. So our migrant population, our non-English speaking population data for the Toowoomba Regional Council in here probably isn't 100% indicative of the real life situation. But what you would do is you would use the data that's in here, and then you might go to someone like Multicultural Australia or Catholic Care who would be able to give you some of those additional pieces of information if your project was related to, you know, migrants or migrants in the region. So it's an easy example for me to use to say, use the data, but you may have to go get something else because we are on the tail end of a census. But 90% of the time, it's a rare example, 90% of the time you can go in here, you can use the data, and the government know that this is the most up-to-date data you probably have got access to. So feel free to use it. So this is what it looks like, the community profile. On the left down here, a whole heap of different stuff you can look at. And you can see on each one of these, the drop downs are many, you know, so you can go find a whole heap of different stuff around your region. I like this population highlights. If you click on this, it gives you these nice little boxed little data sets as to bits of information. So, you know, this says, you know, how Darling Downs, this is all 10 of our councils added up, how we compare to regional Queensland, to Queensland and to Australia. So there's some good little data sets in here if you want just a quick overview, and then you want to have a look in here as to which bits actually relates to your grant. You don't want to be just sticking in data in there that's totally unrelated to what you're applying for. You want to go find the data in here that supports your case and your argument and the need in your region. So as you can see, you can go in there and you can scoot around and have a look. Now this is the RDA one, but all you got to do is get on this little drop down, and you can have a look at any of the council areas. All right, so you can have a look specifically at your council area. As I said, our 6 Western councils, we did fund a portal for the Southwest Red, which is now becoming the Southwest Rock. So they have a little separate one if they want to use all of the Southwest. Like if they've got a project that's going to be across all those 6 councils, and let's face it, some projects in those areas has a lot of flow-on effect, they can use that one. But, you know, it may be just council specific. So I saw that we had Mayor O'Toole on the call. So Sam, thanks for joining us. Let's have a look at Ballon. So there's some data in here you can have a look at for Ballon. So, you know, just say your project is going to benefit Indigenous in the region. We can say, look, our percentage of population for Indigenous is 15.9%, and that is significantly higher than the Queensland average of 4%. And this is why we need this extra project to support our Indigenous population. There's an example of how you would use the numbers that are in here. All right, so you can see that's just the population highlights. You can drill down into heaps more on any of these other little tabs here on the left, okay? The other thing that I like, and sometimes it's easier to read, is if you're on any of these pages, if you scroll right down to the bottom, you get quick accesses to all of them here rather than trying to find the little drop downs. So you can go here and you can have a look at, well, you know, I want to know how many people in Ballon or RDA region, we're going back to RDA region, but I want to know how many in the region volunteer. Okay, so Sam, I'm just going to use you again, the Ballon Shire. So here, oh, look, full of good people in Ballon. So Ballon, 30.7% of people volunteer. Okay, which is significantly higher than regional Queensland, 19.1. But Sam, you can actually change this, and because it's a federal government grant, you can change it to Australia and say, compared to Australia, where only 19% of people in Australia volunteer, we have 30.7% of volunteers. These are the people who keep our community going. And so this is why we need a leadership capability project to support our volunteers in the region, okay? Now, the other thing that you can do with this tool, you can export any of that. So you hit this export button and you can export that. You can put it in a project plan, a project brief. You wouldn't really use it in the grant application section because it's character limited, but you can export that, okay? If you come down here, you get some nice little graphs to even show how wonderful you are, and you can use them and you can export any of them as well. You just click on this and you export it in whatever format you want. Go away. And then, or you can actually export the whole page at the top here, okay? So depending on what you need, pick and choose the bits that help your argument, okay? So that's what you want to be doing. Or as I said, you can come down the bottom, you can click on any of the tabs. Now the other bit I want to quickly show you that I quite like, it's on this section, come on, is here in the downloads. So I see here in the downloads, you can go to reports. So if you go downloads and reports, and then you can scroll down here, you can pick and choose the bits you want in a report. So you can say, I want volunteering, and then I want to prove that the people who volunteer, individual income, and I want to talk about, you know, the fact that they need some extra training because we don't get not qualified training because that's not covered by the grant, but we want this leadership workshop because our level of qualifications in the region is lower than the average. So they might be the bits that relate to your grant application. Then you stick your email address in here and then you send yourself the report. Okay, and then you can attach a report. So what I like about this is you can pick and choose the bits that are relevant and not worry about the rest. Okay, so that's under downloads and reports on the left side, and then you can like click all over the place and pick and choose what you want in your report. But as I said, you can't break it. Get in there, have a look, find data that is going to help your argument. Things that are going to help you say the need and the demand, and the things that are going to say the impact on your region and why your region is different to other regions. This is why I need this money, you know, because it is a competitive grant round. Okay, so that's a community profile. The economic profile, very similar. On the side here, there's a whole heap of different areas that you can look at, and there's lots of drop downs and stuff. On the green one as well, the economic one, you can still go down the bottom, and it still has this easier to read summary rather than the drop downs. So you can click on any of these and have a look at stuff that might be relevant for your actual project. They have also the economic indicators here that you can have a look at for your region. You can tap on any of those to what you want. You can look at, you know, the GRP, you can look at industry focuses. The one I wanted to talk to you specifically about is in here, the industry focus will give us a summary of all the industries across our region, but they have these custom industries because they can actually scrape data from a different place for these two industries. I'm specifically just going to show you tourism because we've got 100 million dedicated to tourism infrastructure. This might be a tab that you want to look at under that one. So under this one, there's the tourism sector analysis. And it tells you a whole heap of stuff about tourism in our region, the direct and indirect outputs, the value of tourism in our region, the value of employment in our region. You can see all of those there. You can export any of them, same as like I showed you on the red tab. So you just export it, you can add it to a project brief or a business case. You can export the whole page. You can go to specifics here around tourism visitor summary, and it tells you data around the region. Again, it's preset for the RDA Darling Down Southwest region, but you can go down to a specific council area and get the specific council area data on any of that stuff. Now you can see this is a lot more up to date than the community profile because this is not from census. On all of these, it says where they go get these information. So you can attribute any numbers that you put into your grant application to the right source. So it always tells you what the source is. And as we said, you can use this. Don't feel like you are plagiarizing information. We fund this so that you can do that export and you can use it and feel confident that you're not breaking any, you know, rules of copying and pasting or anything like that. Okay, so please use the economic profile for all different sorts of data to prove the economic case. Now, everything I've showed you so far is currently publicly available. You can go get any of that stuff right now for our region. Okay, so we fund it, it's publicly available, get on it, search it, you know, drop down, do whatever. Export stuff, send yourself a report, do all of it. The only tools that aren't publicly available are these economic impact tools here under the economic tools. And that's a rule that ID Profile have because they think that you need some more training to use these tools, and they don't want people doing economic impact reports and the report be wrong and then you miss a grant because the report was wrong. Okay, so I'm just going to run you through these though, because these economic impact assessments and reports you can get from us for your grant application. So you need to email Tim, and I'm just going to run you through the information you need to give to Tim to get one of these reports. Now, if for some reason you can't get a hold of us, keep in mind Tim usually works Monday to Wednesday. Yes, I did make him do a 7:30 start on a Friday today, but he usually works Monday to Wednesday. So allow him some time, and usually a Building Better Regions Fund grant round, we get smashed. So do not leave this to the last week. The amount of letters of support and economic impact assessment reports that he has to try and do in 1 week is crazy. So do not leave it to the last week, please. But I'm going to show you what you can do in here and what the report looks like. So what you can do is you can pick any council area. So let's stick with Maranoa Regional Council. So our friends out in Roma and Mitchell and Surat. And just say someone in Surat is saying, we want to build a $700,000 piece of tourism infrastructure. So some people message Tim and say, we're spending $200,000 in tourism. Can you do us the report? Well, if it's a piece of infrastructure, the $700,000 isn't in tourism. It's actually in construction. Okay, so what we do is we come in here and we go, Maranoa, if we were going to spend on construction, here it is, building construction, and we were going to spend $700,000. Now, there's only 2 parameters that we can do this report around. One is either dollars or the other one is jobs. Okay, so just say this Surat organisation comes to Tim and says, we're going to spend $700,000 on construction. And once this tourism attraction has been built, we know it's going to employ 12 more people in tourism. So he will do 2 reports. One will be the effect of the construction, because the $700,000 is actually going into construction. And then he'll do another report around the fact that there's going to be these jobs. So in this case, my little example I'm giving you, it's obviously in sales. And you'll see that this tool is not for small projects. It's for anything over 100,000, because the smallest we can go down to is 0.1 of a million. Okay, so anything 100,000 and above, we can do this for you. You name the project, whatever it's called, and then you hit this little submit button over here. Now I'm simplifying this, obviously. And what it does is it gives you this report. So it tells you 700,000 spent in construction in the Maranoa region has a flow-on effect to the Maranoa region of 880,000, and it has a flow-on effect to the Australian economy of 1.38 million. So even though it's $700,000, it has a flow-on effect of 1.38 million. Now, sometimes, and I remember when I first used to look at these reports, I'd be like, what the heck? Because the flow-on effect of the dollar is crazy. And then the flow-on to the jobs is quite crazy as well. So this report gives you that information. And the good thing is it comes from the National Economics Institute. The federal government, the state government, they know when you attach one of these reports that you haven't just plucked some numbers out of the air. This is a validated tool that sits behind here that it's all different for different industries as to what the flow-on effect is. Just to let you know, construction is quite considerable, which is why they tend to put a lot of economic stimulus packages around building and construction, because it actually has a good flow-on effect compared to some other industries. But it also tells you these jobs. So it knows that if you do this project, not only will people be employed in construction, but there's some flow-on effects, you know, because all this construction is happening in Maranoa, that there's an extra coffee shop shift going on, and that you're going to need to use professional services to do this project. So there'll be a couple of extra dollars spent in professional services, you know, so it actually adds them all up and says, here's the equivalent of full-time equivalents. There might be lots of little part-time, little casual shifts in there, but this is the full-time equivalent effect of that project. And you can see here it says that project will create 6 new jobs. Now, one of the criteria in the Building Better Regions Fund is for you to prove the job effect of your project. So you need this to prove that. Okay, so that says that you've got 6 extra jobs that will do just for the construction phase, let alone then once the tourism thing starts. Okay, so this is a really good tool. Tim then exports it into a 6-page report that we then send to you, and you can attach it to your grant, and you can use the numbers in the body of the grant application. So in that character limited fields, you would want to refer to some of these numbers as well as attach the report as part of your proof as to the effect of your project. Okay. If you are looking at the event, like you're coming up with a new event and you're going to put that under the community stream, there is also an event impact calculator. So you can get in touch with Tim and he can do a report. It's a much smaller report. It's like a page and a half from memory, but it does show the flow-on effect of having, you know, 2,000 people attend an event in that town with this many nights overnight stay. it shows the impact of it. So he can do those as well. All right, so I wanted to show you that just so that you've got an idea of the information you need to give to Tim for him to be able to do that. So for a letter of support, he needs basically your project brief, you know, your first 250, 300 words that says, you know, what's the need for the project, what is the project, what's going to be the impact. And then he needs one of those two parameters, the dollars that you're going to end up spending, or the jobs that you know that this project is going to affect. You know, an extension on this building means that we'll have, you know, 6 more aged care people employed, you know, to man that area. We would do a construction report, and then we would do an aged care report, and you could attach both and refer to both. All right, so that's that tool. Please go use it for general information and then let us know about that report. And as I said, if you can't get a hold of us for that report, all 10 of our councils have an economic development officer who has usually had that training. Okay, so if you can't get a hold of us, usually your council has got somebody within the council who runs those reports all the time and has the password to get in there. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing that screen and go back to our PowerPoint. And I know that's a fairly long session on the Economy ID tool, but we really want to make sure that you use it. There is also a link here to where we've got the links to that tool on our website, but below the links to that tool, we have actually got the 10 strategic plans from all of our 10 councils. So if you want to find your local council strategic plan and say how your project aligns with it, they're all summarised on that link there, okay? All right, so this is just an example, as you can see, as to the value of tourism, and I exported it and put it in a PowerPoint. You can export it and put it in one of your project briefs, but I just wanted to show you that that's, you're not breaching any rules or regulations by doing that. That's what the tool's there to do, okay? This is what that report looks like. So the economic impact report, here's a sample one, and it's the 700 million spent in construction in Maranoa region. And so this is what it looks like. So this is page 1 and 2, page 3 and 4, page 5 and 6. So you will get emailed that, and you can attach that to your application. So that's just a sample so that you guys knew what the report looked like and the sort of information you can get out of it and how you can talk about the numbers. All right. So that's data. Another way to show data and evidence is through your letters of support. And I see a lot of organisations do a generic copy and paste about their project brief, and they send it to some people and they get a letter of support, and the letters of support all look the same. So my tip is not to do that, but certainly these ones here that you see in front of you are definitely key letters of support that you should consider for your application. So a no-brainer is you should have support from your federal member, your state member, and your local council. I would also put your local RDA in that link. So they're easy letters of support that you should be getting. It actually says in the grant guidelines that they can go to state and federal agencies and state and federal members when it comes to the crunch around deciding which projects are going to be funded. So if they get right down to just a couple of projects in a particular region that they're trying to decide between, they will go to your local state development or your local state member or your local federal member and ask them what are their thoughts on this project. And if your local federal member has never heard of you and doesn't know about your project, that's probably not going to go down well. So I would make sure that they are across it, okay? The other one that I think is good to prove economic impact is your industry bodies and certainly your chambers of commerce, you know, so you can get a good letter of support for them that says what is going to be the impact on the business community and on the economy for your project. When it comes to the social benefits, a good way of proving the social benefits is to get community groups to say, here you go, yes, we're aware of this project, we think it's a good project, and we think this will be the community benefits, the social benefits for it. Keep in mind if you're looking at the 100 million tourism infrastructure bucket, you would want to have been in touch with your local tourism organisation. So across our footprint, we have Southern Queensland Country Tourism here on the east, and on the west, we have Outback Tourism. Now, you would want to have the support of your local tourism organisation. And can I say our local tourism organisations have access to more data. So I know Peter Homan here from Southern Queensland Country Tourism on the eastern side has just funded a whole nother data portal, and he may be able to access some more stuff to support your project. It actually even says in the guidelines that if you're looking at tourism infrastructure, that they will ask Austrade about your project. So my tip would be make sure Austrade are aware of your project if you are looking at the tourism infrastructure stream. Now, we co-chair a trade and investment group, RDA Darling Down Southwest, and we do that with Trade and Investment Queensland. So Kelly's our main person that we deal with in Trade and Investment Queensland, and she has a dual role. She's actually our local Austrade federal government person, and she's also the Trade and Investment Queensland state government person. So they've worked together on Kelly's position. So if you are looking at tourism infrastructure, please send us an email and we'll share Kelly's details with you, because you would want to make sure that she's actually aware that you exist and what your project is, because it actually says it in the guidelines. So you'd want to be making sure Austrade know who you are. Some other letters of support tips for you is get data and evidence in your letter of support if you can. This is a bit of extra work, guys, but I would recommend it. Rather than sending everybody that you want a letter of support from the same generic information, give them a couple of dot points that you have personalised based on who they are. So give the Chamber of Commerce a couple of dot points around business and industry impacts, you know, as opposed to giving the local community group some dot points around the social impacts. Okay, and if you can, get the data out of Economy ID and Community ID and use that if you've got the time. So make it easy for them, but at the same time, use it to be another piece of evidence that's specific rather than generic in your letters of support. All right, quick summary. In the guidelines, it says what are the mandatory documents. My reading of it, here's my summary of it, but make sure you read the guidelines and do this yourself and do your own due diligence, but there's a few in there that are key. There is a accountant declaration template. So at the bottom of the Building Better Regions Fund tabs, under in the investment stream and under the community stream, there are some templated documents. One of them is the accountant declaration. So send that to your accountant and they need to fill that in saying, yes, you have got the matching funds, okay? If you haven't got the matching funds and you've got somebody who has said they will co-fund, or a few people who have said they would put in if you get the grants, there is an evidence of contribution letter template on the BBRF website. Send them that template to fill in, and that will need to get attached to your document. So either way, between those two documents, you are proving you have the money, okay? So please use those. If you are looking at infrastructure projects and you don't own the land on which that piece of infrastructure is, you need to have the authority to undertake the project at a site template filled in. So guys, this one is not on the community investment tab, because you don't need to worry about that with the types of projects that you are putting it in under the community investment tab. But if you are looking at the infrastructure stream, so you could be a community group looking at building a piece of infrastructure, you need to have authority from the landowner that you are allowed to build where it is. So usually this is community groups who have got like some long-term lease agreement from the council, you know, that the scout hut can be on that piece of land, and now you want to expand the scout hut. You would need to get an authority to undertake the project at a site filled in by your local council then, because the council owns the land. Okay, so if you're not the owner of the land, you need that. It's mandatory. If you are looking at the tourism infrastructure a bucket of money, you will need to provide additional evidence around the impact of COVID on your industry, your tourism industry in your region, and you will need to show evidence that your project will actually mitigate those impacts and will benefit the tourism industry in your region. So there's some additional work there to do if you want to be considered in the tourism infrastructure bucket. Don't forget there is 100 million for the general bucket, so you could apply to that. If you are going down the exemption to matching funds road, and I hesitate to recommend that, it's rare that they will give that exemption, but if that's something that you believe you have got enough evidence to prove, you need to make sure you attach all of that evidence to prove that you are exempt from matching funds. You also need to prove your not-for-profit status. So there's been some good questions around not-for-profit status, and in those guidelines that the department only sent out this morning, there's some really good answers around how you can prove your not-for-profit status. So we're going to send that out, that fact sheet. So it's in the FAQs, so frequently asked questions. So you can look that up if you've got some questions around how do you prove that. The employment numbers, it says in the grant guidelines that you need to employ you need to show evidence of the flow on employment numbers and jobs that your project will create. So that's where the tool that we spent some time going through is so essential for you to be able to show the impact on jobs in your region. You do need to provide evidence for the 4 criterion, so employment impact, economic impact, social impact, that you are capable to do the job, and that you do need the money. So you need to show those. And if you are looking at applying for over $1 million, you do need to put in a separate cost benefit analysis. So that's a little bit more budgetary work for you to do, you know, which I think is fair enough, given that you're going to maybe get more than $1 million of federal government money, but there is a template for it. So there's some key documents that you need to keep in mind that you will need to put into your application. All right, we've given you our hints and tips, right? But we're not the guys who look after the grant. Here's the links to the people who look after the grant. And in the guidelines, they say, contact us. They want you to contact them. Please don't think that you can't, okay? So this is the link at the top here to the contact us page. You can ring them on 13 28 46. There is a link to emailing them direct. There is nothing wrong with you emailing them. Some projects say to me, oh, I'm worried that they won't like my project, or they'll think, you know, I can't deliver because I'm having to ask a question. No, that's what they're there for. Ask them the questions, okay? If you ask us some and it's not clear in the guidelines and the FAQs, and there's not like I can't go and quote, you know, under 5.1 it says this, I usually just email the department, I get their answer back, and I'm going to send that to you anyway. So you could be emailing them yourself. So please do so. Use those links. All right, we're going to go to questions and answers in a minute. And as I said, try and keep them general. If you've got a project-specific question, I would probably recommend that we cover that offline, and you've got all of our contact details. But if you've got a general question, you know, around the grant, we will do our best to answer it, or we will take it on notice and get an answer from the department, and we're going to open up to that in a minute. Before we do though, I just wanted to again give you our contact details. I recommend you subscribe to our newsletter so you know when we've got other stuff like this going on and when we update the grants portal. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter and Instagram, so please follow us. And any of our webinars we do, it takes a while to get the recordings loaded onto YouTube, but we do load them onto YouTube. So if you need to watch this again, feel free, and it'll be on there 3 times. So we've done 3 versions. I've tried to say the same things, but I do sometimes say different things to different people, different groups. So yeah, all the recordings will be there for you to go and access. Okay, there are our contact details again, and the quick links. So the economy tool, the data tool, the list of grants on our website is there, and this is our homepage of our website. So if you scroll down the bottom, you can subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the good stuff that Tim sends out. Okay, that is the end of our PowerPoint. We are going to open to questions. Now, Tim, I see if we got any in the, I'm just going to scroll through the chat, so bear with me, everyone, as I see if we've got some there that I should be answering. Oh, there's lots in the chat. But are they questions or just chatting? Do the matching funds have to be in cash or can they be in kind? They need to be hard, cold dollars. Sorry, Diana. But you do want to talk to your incline. You want to say about your incline because it shows value for money in the project and a good return on investment. So you still want to be putting into a budget the inclines that you've got for the project, and they could come from multiple sources if you've got lots of people who are very supportive of this project, but the actual dollar amount that you do ask for needs to be cold hard cash. So either cash you've already got in your account and you can approve it with the accountant's declaration, or you've got some other bodies or some other funding sources who have said, yeah, if you get this grant, I guarantee that I'm going to give you co-funding, and you get them to put it in writing using the template that is on the Building Better Regions Fund area, okay? Good question, Aramanga. Thanks, Robin. Can you define what level of planning is required for shovel ready? Now, in the FAQs, there is some answers around that. So we will send that out for you. But the thing is, your project can't have commenced, but you want to have a project brief, a project plan, a risk management is another way to prove that your project is shovel ready. You want to have your quotes, even though those quotes might have to change. So we get that there's sometimes a time lag between you getting the quote, putting it in, and then when they announce the winners. So, nearly everybody who does end up getting the grant approved to them, grant recipients have to go back and get new quotes and stuff. So that quite often has to happen, and they do know that, but they're the sorts of things you would want to have lined up, Robin. Yeah, but there is some more about that in the FAQs, so we will send that out to you because that is asked quite a lot.
Thanks.
No worries. So lovely to hear you, Robin. Merry Christmas.
Yes, you too.
I just see some of the others were just sorry, people having to leave for meetings and things. Yes, we will share the PowerPoint slides. We will share the recording of this. The department did send us some slides, but it was after we'd already started our webinars. So, but we will send you the department slides. We had a look through them and we had covered off on the information that's in the department slides and then some. So some other tips and the data and all that is not in the generic Australia-wide slides, but we will send you the Australia-wide slides as well. And we are going to add now to those emails the copies of the fact sheet. So they have only sent through today a frequently asked questions fact sheet. Are you ready to apply checklist? They have sent through a fact sheet about how you can prove employment outcomes. For those of you who are applying for over $1 million, they have sent a fact sheet around the cost benefit analysis. And then for those who are looking at the tourism related infrastructure, they have sent a fact sheet with some more information defining the tourism infrastructure bucket of money. So you will get all of those fact sheets as well, and they'll be available on our website. And I'm pretty sure the guys will have it on the BBRF website too pretty soon, but they will be available on the Darling Down Southwest RDA site, and we will email them to you. I think the rest of these, I'm just scrolling through the rest of the comments, and I see it's just a lot of people saying thank you and that they have to head off. Yeah. You mentioned collaboration. I'm interested to know if an application will be more favourably looked upon if 2 or 3 like-minded. Yes, they are. You do need an applicant lead usually to put in, but you can show that you've got strong support by a couple of groups. That is always beneficial, Desley. So really good question. But yes, they love seeing that it is supported by multiple groups, and that's just not a random that's gone off and done this thing and there's not groundswell or community support for it. And as we said, I'd also be showing that there's federal, state and local government support for it as well. If you're a community group, that's something that you would go and have a look at. All right, I don't think I've missed any questions in the chat, but what we usually do, because we have still got a little bit of time, is if you want to come off mute and ask a question verbally, now's the time to do it. So this is where I usually get a sip of my cold coffee that's been sitting here while I've been talking. And while I have a sip of my coffee, please come off mute and ask away.
I'll let you drink your coffee, Trudi. Just in terms, hello. Just in terms of that shovel, yeah, it's lovely. The shovel readiness, in terms of the documents for the planning of the building, to what level, because obviously there's very, a lot of different levels of planning when you're building a building, and each level requires a level of funding as well for that design. So to what level are they expecting us to have for an application, do you know?
Yeah, it does go through it a little bit in this FAQs, but Robin, my understanding and my reading of it is you want to have it planned, right? So you want to have, like it priced up based on a plan, but that doesn't mean it needs to have gone through, a DA or any of that sort of stuff yet. So I know of ones that they still go through the DA afterwards. But look, we can take that on notice and see if we can get some more specifics from the department around exactly what do they want to have had. My knowledge of ones that have gone in the past have been at varying degrees, but it can't be still at feasibility, viability stage. That needs to have gone through that, and that if it's a piece of infrastructure, you at least have drawings that are at a stage that somebody can give you an educated, reasonable price on it. So that, I've seen ones come through and that it is literally a drawing that a builder was able to give them a price on, so a community shed kind of thing. That's the stage that it's at. And then once they got the grant, that turned into proper, builders drawings, like rather than a drawing. I know of ones in the past that's the level they were at, but they were at a level that they could provide those rough drawings and they could have a proper quote from a couple of building companies to prove that that's what it was going to cost. And they got through without, the proper, building drawings with all
the design, yeah,
foundations and everything in it. So, but more than happy to ask that question and see if that department can give us some more specifics. But all I'm sharing with you is my knowledge of grants I've seen come through in the last couple of rounds and those that did get funded. So, I have seen a community group where it was a literal drawing on a paper with, sizing and, notes as to what kind of materials they wanted the shed made out of. And builders were able to quote off that, and they did actually win that grant. So we're going to the opening of that shed in the new year. So, it doesn't have to be a full-blown, plan, like building kind of stuff, but it needs to be a project.
Yeah, so just another question on that. Trudi, is the quantity surveyors costing as good as a builder's costing?
That's a good question that I would need to ask. Tim, can we make a note
just find out?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, they're generally based on the industry market for that particular region. So they're generally fairly accurate in that sense, or they're a good comparison, but yeah, just need to know that.
Yeah, so we'll get a clear answer on that one, because I'd hate for you to use it and then they say, no, we needed the next level. So Tim, can you make a note and we'll email away and get a question for you back on that and send it out with the recording.
Yeah, because often you'll get your builder's quote probably a little bit later in the process too, depending on how it's tendered out or whatever. So it just depends on the process your individuals take. So, yeah. But I mean, having said that, they can be got, but yeah. Okay, thanks, Trudi. Sorry to give you the hard ones.
No, I like it. I prefer to be asked, and but that one I would not say I'm qualified to answer, but we will go to those that are.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, and Merry Christmas, and thank you. This has been absolutely excellent. Thank you very much.
Robin. You do an amazing job out there. I'd love to see you get another project up and running. So, Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, did anyone else have another question that you wanted to ask? Feel free to come off mute and ask away. All right, I'm going to assume that there's no other questions, or that all the questions you have got are pretty much project specific. So you would come back to us and ask them specifically. Look, can I say thanks for hanging out for 1 hour and 40 minutes to listening to all of that. We really appreciate you coming on the call. And look forward to hearing the projects that you're going to put forward under this round of Building Better Regions Fund. And I'll make the most of the opportunity to say to all of you, Merry Christmas, be safe. I hope in between all of the grant preparing, you get some time with your family and a little bit of time off over Christmas. But we wish you luck, and we look forward to seeing the projects that you send through to us for letters of support and for those impact reports. All right. Thank you.